welcome back to my channel, whatcassread. Today I'm going to talk about all of the books that I have rated 5 stars this year. I have my reading journal here to reference, which is so convenient. I was like, oh, I gotta write down all the 5-star books, and I was like, you've been keeping track of that in your reading journal. Just grab your reading journal. I have to do an updated video for you all and show you like the updated flip, but I have officially met my 50 book goal, like right at 50 right now. It's a miracle I even got to 50, and you'll see what helped me get there. So yeah, my reading plans for the rest of the year are just like very casual because I'm good. I met 50 books. Okay, so if you are interested in hearing about my reading journey this year, since I didn't really do many wrap-ups, please stay tuned because I'm going to talk about my 5-star reads of 2024. My reading year has been very interesting. I didn't touch a fantasy book until the end of January. And then even after that, it had still been quite a number of months until my next fantasy book. So the first part of the year, I was reading all kinds of fluffy romance. So you're gonna see the trajectory of my year with my 5-star reads. And the first fluffy romance that I gave a 5-star to, this is The Viscount Who Loved Me, written by Julia Quinn. This is actually book number 2 in the Bridgerton series. I have read all 8 books in the Bridgerton series. I have loved them, but Kate and Anthony's story was my very, very favorite. Lisa Kleypas was my first historical romance author that like showed me that I could enjoy fluffy romance, and like the dark and twisty place that my mental health was, I needed fluff. I didn't love book number 1 of the Bridgerton series, and I was like, oh no, am I not gonna like this? Because I had already bought all 8 books in the series. I was like, oh no. There was just something that happens at like middle end of book number 1 of the series that is like this like pivotal moment that pushes the couple kind of like over their edge in book number 1, and I was like, oh, I don't love that. I was liking this whole like family aspect, but I don't like that very much. And then The Viscount Who Loved Me single-handedly saved the rest of the series for me. This is the only 5-star book I gave in the series. The rest of them were all solid 4-star reads. I just really loved them. It's set in Regency era London, and it follows the Bridgerton family. There are 8 children, and each book is about one of the 8 children. And I love that Anthony's book was second because he is the oldest Bridgerton child, and he became the Viscount at a very young age because his father passed away. And so the weight of those responsibilities and having 7 siblings with his now widowed mother, he stepped up to the plate in a big way just because he wanted to make sure that everybody was taken care of, but he never really took time for himself either. And the ways that he was taking care of himself, it was like not what a Viscount should be doing, someone who is in society should be doing. So the woman that he does end up meeting, our heroine Kate, she just like challenged him in so many beautiful ways. I loved her. I loved their whole book. And then controversially, I think this is a hot take, I don't know, but season 2 of Bridgerton was my favorite. Season 1 was my least favorite so far. Yeah, so anyways, I absolutely love this. And really what the whole Bridgerton series represents to me was just like this wonderful family and family bond, brothers and sisters, and all the fighting and all the love that comes together with family. That's what really kept me going at the beginning of the year. So that's book number 1. I'm still in my fluffy romance phase. Still can't handle a lot of dark things, but I wasn't in the mood for like traditionally published romance at the time, so that's when my Hermione that's when the Hermione affair happened for the first half of the year, where I just started picking up so many Hermione fan fictions. So this one is Remain Nameless, written by HeyJude 19. I actually bound this myself, and I have a whole, there's my inside cover. So pretty. I have a whole video that I've already filmed of the favorite Hermione fan fiction that I've read so far. So this was the first 5-star Hermione fan fiction that I read of the year. It's one of my favorites. And again, this was not even approaching anything dark, because I just didn't think I was there yet. And so this one is a contemporary romance style of post-war healing, because all of these events take place after the war. And so this is one of those like offshoots where things like the things that our characters have carried with them after defeating like the greatest evil of all time, and how are we supposed to pick up our life and like move on with that. And then I just loved it. It was so good. If you want to hear more about that one, go ahead and look at my Hermione video. Then finally I was like, okay, fantasy, here we go. And that's when I picked up Murtaugh, written by Christopher Paolini. I also have a video up of like, this is your sign to read Aragon, because Aragon brought me back into the fold. Christopher Paolini brought me back into the fold. I started with just like a comforting world that I knew and a comforting set of characters that I knew, and this was the latest release in the Inheritance cycle. I knew that I wanted to read this book, and so even though I wasn't like fully invested in fantasy yet, I knew that Christopher Paolini like would take care of me. He wouldn't let me down, and I was already familiar with the main character Murtaugh. I was already familiar with this dragon Thorn, but this is the first time that we actually get to have a book from their perspective. So this is after all of the events of the Inheritance cycle, and Murtaugh is a pretty big deal of a character that we meet in that series, and I won't tell you how he relates to everything. He does have a dragon named Thorn, and this is their like trying to again pick up the pieces after like the big battle and the big war, and in this new world, what is their relationship to it and their relationship to the magic. And it was just like a really great pick-me-up, and I loved it, and this was a 5-star read for me. I actually called, no, I didn't call, I texted. I texted one of my high school friends that we used to read these books together. I was like, guess what I'm reading right now? And we graduated high school 20 years ago. So yes, I still have his number, and we still talk about at least Aragon. We talk about a lot of things, but yeah, I was like, guess what I'm reading? Okay, so after I picked up Murtaugh, I still wasn't like feeling fantasy yet, but I jumped pretty much into the deep end of Hermione fan fiction. And so that's when I read The Auction by Loves Bitka 8. Let me take a sip of water. The Auction is written by, she's actually a traditionally published romance author, Julie Soto, and she wrote this under her like fanfic pen name, Loves Bitka 8. Now this is a very, very dark alternate universe Voldemort wins Hermione fan fiction. Super dark. I loved it. I actually have read this book twice this year. That's how much I loved it. That's how much it just moved me. Again, it's in my best Hermione fanfics that I've read so far, and I just loved it so much that I also had to bind it up as well and have my own physical copy. So the only way that you can have physical copies of fanfiction is if you learn how to bind it yourself. So like if you're seeing someone post something for sale and you are interested in fan fiction, don't buy it from them, like as tempting as that may be, because that's illegal. They are not allowed to be benefiting financially from copyrighted characters that are not theirs. Okay, and then the next Hermione fan fiction, once I was done with that like super dark one, I had to go way to the other end of the spectrum, and I read this one. This is Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, written by isthisselfcare. Again, I had to bind it myself. I don't have like a cutesy cover on the inside, but the typeset that I got for this one was just gorgeous. And if you are interested in learning how to fan bind and interested in typesets and all that stuff, there's a huge community out there, and that's how I got the typesets for all of these. Like I did not typeset these myself. I got typesets that were already made and already available for free from people who just love these stories as much as I do. So this one's the really, really, really light one. It is another post-war, but it's like the happy version. The things all turned out the way that we thought they would. Voldemort's dead, and it follows Draco and Hermione is this like super smart witch that we all know and love, but she's like researching something like very, very top secret, and the Minister of Magic has decided that he would like an Auror like security detail with her, because what she's researching is so dangerous but also so important for her to get the research done. And Draco Malfoy is an Auror. He draws the short straw and ends up on her security detail, and it's fun and it's witty and I love it. Okay, then we finally got around to the Aragon books. So I didn't pull them off my shelf because I basically gave Aragon, Eldest, Brissinger, Inheritance all 5-star reads, all written by Christopher Paolini. The next 5-star book that I don't own is, I actually read Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me, and I gave that 5 stars. It was just a really eye-opening look. It made me reflect and reminisce about like my childhood and my teenagehood of when Britney Spears was in her heyday and as popular as she was, and the reflections that I have about her experience have changed so much throughout the year because it's all been based off of what media has told me. And when it all finally came to light about Britney's conservatorship, and when she was finally able to break free from that and tell her own story, is just really powerful. There's a lot in here about Britney's experience of becoming a mother and how that really impacted some of the way that she would think and act about the things that she was doing, and that like hit me in the feels, and I think that's why I brought it up to a 5. Like it was still really enjoyable just for like nostalgia's sake, but just listening to her talk about how motherhood has impacted her, and her ability to move through life. Just got this mom heart right in the middle. Okay, and then I want to say this is the last Hermione fan fiction that I have mostly bound. It's not completely bound, but I will show you the progress that I have. This is the Disappearances of Draco Malfoy, written by Speechwriter. This is a alternate Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows if Draco Malfoy accepted Dumbledore's help at the top of the tower and like chose to join the good side instead of stick with the Death Eaters. So this one was really fun. It was really well written. I loved it very, very much. You have seen me binge the Sarah J. Maas verse. So I gave 5 stars to A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin. I had a newfound appreciation for A Court of Wings and Ruin than I didn't have the first time that I read it. I've read it, I think, twice before. So A Court of Mist and Fury is always going to be my favorite. But A Court of Wings and Ruin, I just had like a little bit more appreciation knowing that the story was continuing, that this wasn't the end because it was a crappy end, which is why I gave it a crappy rating at the first time I read it. I began reading 10 Sarah J. Maas books in a row, and I gave 5 stars to Akamath, Akawar. Then there isn't another 5-star until you get to Assassin's Blade. Now we're in the Throne of Glass series. And then pretty much the rest of the series. So we're talking Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, Kingdom of Ash. All of those got 5 stars. I have vlogged my whole experience reading the Throne of Glass series, so if you are interested in that, please go ahead and check out those videos. You can see like me finding out some very pivotal things on camera. Kingdom of Ash was a good ending to the whole series, but I gave it like it was a 5-star, but it was a soft 5-star. I think that I said it in my vlog, but I would like to also say it here just for like sake of continuity and for people who don't want to watch the vlog. I have to give Sarah J. Maas her flowers after the Throne of Glass series. I do not like books 1 and 2 of Throne of Glass, and I do not like A Court of Thorns and Roses. Those are definitely some of her weakest books to me. Once we get into what I think her story was always meant to be, which to me is book 3 onward for Throne of Glass. The action picked up, the pace picked up, everything got so much more complex. It had so many different tropes that I totally love in fantasy that I was like, I have to give her flowers. And Throne of Glass has now catapulted itself into my top 10 fantasy series. I don't know the placing yet. I haven't really gone through that much research of internal research of where I would put those books. But I want to say it for the record here and not just in the vlog, that whole series totally holds up with any other fantasy series that I have on my shelf. I was having like some thoughts and some reflection, and I have plenty of authors on there where their first books are just like a little meh, and then the series gets better, and I have no problem putting those on my top 10 fantasy series. So like, I just need to get over whatever this internal gripe was that I had with Sarah J. Maas and give her flowers and put Throne of Glass on there. I have 2 more 5 stars that I have read in my first 50 books of the year. This one was another reread. So the whole thing of this year was like a ton of rereads and a ton of Hermione. But this is Long Shot, written by Kennedy Ryan. I just talked about this book in Get to Know the Romance Reader video that I posted. And that one is a contemporary dark sports romance. It touches on subjects of domestic violence, and I think if you're gonna be a writer these days, and if you don't come swinging the way that Kennedy Ryan comes swinging, you have no business writing about these like super tough subjects. And the way that I was talking about it in my video made me want to reread it, so I did. So I did, because that book is so impactful to me, and I gave that a 5 stars. Now, for the last 5-star read that I want to share with you, this is also the most surprising book of the year for me. And if you look at the trajectory of my reading year, there weren't a lot of like, it was a rough year. I had some months where I literally didn't read anything. But I vlogged this one as well. And the most surprising 5-star read of the year for me is Carrie, written by Stephen King. The way that I feel about this book and the way that it made me feel when I was vlogging it, I had originally given it a 4 stars, but I was like, if I'm still feeling this way, in a couple of days, I might bump it up to a 5. Spoiler alert, I bumped it up to a 5. This book was so sad, and there were just so many just little motifs in there about the bullying that she experienced and trauma, and like how trauma was internalized and how it manifested itself, and just like the self-destruction of this character. And like, it was so sad, and I wasn't expecting it to be sad. I really wasn't expecting to feel all of these feelings that I had at the end of it, because I thought it was just going to be, you know, Carrie and the prom, and it's going to be this like huge bloodbath, because that's all anybody talks about. But just like learning about the complexities of the way that her mother treated her, the way that she grew up, and then hearing about future people talking about what happened with Carrie at the prom, it's all in here in just a short, quick bite, and I loved it. Stephen King's first novel, it's one of my favorites, and it is also the most surprising book that I have read of 2024. Yeah, those were my 5-star reads of 2024. I'm very excited now that I'm just like in the mood for not only romance, but now I'm in the mood for fantasy and horror. I haven't really been getting back into sci-fi, but there's a few sci-fi things that are kind of like calling my name that I might touch in 2025. And so I hope that 2025 is just going to be filled with a bunch of like bangers and 5-star reads as well. Let me know what you thought about my list of books, and if you had any similar experiences to me this year. It seemed like a couple people have been going through rough reading years. You're not alone. And then like, let me know what your favorite book of the year has been so far in the comment section below. Okay, like, comment, subscribe. All of my social media links and small business links will be listed in the comment section below, or listed down below, description box. You know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.